I want you to take a second and just imagine the ultimate weapon of modern warfare. Just picture it in your mind.
Right. Usually people go straight to the big stuff.
Yeah, like chances are you're picturing a stealth fighter jet tearing through the clouds, or maybe a massive nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, or, I don't know, a hypersonic missile.
Exactly.
But what if the most critical weapon in a modern military's arsenal doesn't fly? It doesn't shoot. It doesn't explode. In fact, it is completely invisible.
Yeah, the hardware that makes the headlines, the things paraded through capital cities, those are merely the visible kinetic endpoints of a much larger system.
Right.
They are the fists, but, a fist is completely useless without the nervous system telling it where and when to strike.
That is so true. And without this invisible architecture, the most advanced, heavily armed militaries in the world instantly become blind, confused, just totally ineffective.
Yep, completely paralyzed.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into the source material that uncovers this invisible battlefield. We are going to examine the command network that acts as the digital nervous system of modern military operations. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really appreciate the sheer complexity of today's operational environment, we need to look at the baseline problem militaries have been trying to solve for decades.
Well, the foundational enemy of any military operation isn't necessarily the opposing force, it is time.
Time.
Yeah, more specifically, latency. Like, if we look back just a few decades to the Gulf War in the early 90s, which is often considered the dawn of modern precision warfare.
Right, the whole smart bomb era.
Exactly. Even then, commanders faced massive delays. A surveillance plane might spot an armored column, but that data had to be manually processed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was analyzed and relayed through disparate communication channels before a strike package could even be authorized, let alone launched.
By the time the aircraft actually arrived at the coordinates, the target might have moved miles away, right?
Exactly.
The intelligence has an incredibly short shelf life.
It really does. And that gulf between the operational picture and reality creates the classic fog of war. Even with early precision weapons, commanders were essentially looking at a snapshot of the past.
Like a delayed live stream.
Right. And if a communication link was severed or a radio frequency jammed, entire divisions were effectively operating in the dark.
But things have obviously changed.
Oh, the paradigm has fundamentally shifted. The sources we are analyzing today detail how modern conflicts have evolved into near real-time competitions between massive integrated information systems.
It's just incredible to think about.
A commander today can monitor thousands of kilometers of battle space, tracking naval fleets, watching aircraft movements, detecting ballistic missile launches, all from a centralized hub situated on a completely different continent. The logistics of moving from scarce, delayed information to a reality where we have near instantaneous global data streams are just staggering. And the sources use a highly effective biological analogy to explain the mechanics of this architecture, comparing the modern military apparatus to a living, breathing organism.
Yeah, breaking down the anatomy of this military nervous system really clarifies how the data actually moves. So at the very outer edge, you have the sensory organs. The eyes and the ears.
Can I imagine we aren't just talking about a soldier looking through binoculars anymore. We're talking about orbital assets and autonomous platforms.
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at constellations of satellites and low Earth orbit monitoring infrared signatures. We have airborne early warning aircraft scanning the horizon with radar.
Drones too, right?
Right. There are drones silently loitering for days, naval sonar arrays mapping the ocean floor, and electronic intelligence platforms constantly vacuuming up ambient radio frequencies.
So much data.
Every single second, these discrete sensors are gathering terabytes of raw, unstructured data.
But gathering the data is only the first hurdle, right? If a satellite detects a thermal bloom from a missile launch, but that satellite can't actually communicate with the theater missile defense system, the data is entirely useless.
Exactly.
The organism sees the threat, but the arm receives no signal to block it.
And that introduces the nerves of the operation. These are the secure communication architectures. We're talking about encrypted, jam-resistant tactical data links, military-grade fiber optic networks running across ocean floors.
Which sounds incredibly complex to maintain.
It is, and high-bandwidth satellite relays. But the primary technical challenge here isn't just transmitting the data, it's the translation.
What do you mean by translation?
Well, a legacy naval radar system might not natively speak the same digital language as a fifth-generation fighter jet.
Oh, I see.
So the nerves have to route this information and translate it seamlessly, minimizing what we could call synaptic lag, the latency between detection and transmission.
And all of those nerves ultimately lead back to the brain of the operation, which would be the command centers. This is where the synthesis happens, right?
Exactly.
All that raw data, the satellite feeds, the intercepted radio chatter, the radar blips pours into these central hubs.
What's fascinating here is the ultimate goal of this entire biological structure. The brain's job is to create what military strategists call a common operating picture.
A common operating picture.
Yeah. Instead of a commander looking at 10 different screens, trying to mentally piece together contradictory reports from a submarine, a drone, and a ground patrol, advanced algorithms fuse this data.
They smash it all together.
They filter out the background noise, reconcile the anomalies, and project one unified, clear operational map. A pilot in the air and a commander in a bunker look at the exact same synthesized reality.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit, or at least play devil's advocate regarding the human element here.
Sure.
Because the sheer volume of data being described sounds totally unmanageable. Like, think about how we experience digital fatigue in our daily lives. You and I get overwhelmed just managing emails, a couple group chats, and a few news feeds, right?
Oh, definitely.
So if you were a human commander and you were suddenly drinking from a fire hose of satellite imagery, drone feeds, and electronic warfare data, all while basically playing the highest stakes multiplayer video game imaginable, how does a human mind actually process that volume without freezing up from information overload?
Yeah, that is a critical vulnerability, and the text addresses it directly. The nerve system we are discussing isn't designed simply to hoard information.
Yeah.
If it were just about dumping terabytes of raw data onto a commander's desk, it would induce total paralysis. The architecture is built as an engine for speed.
Speed.
It's a framework designed to process and synthesize that information faster than the adversary can process theirs.
Which brings us to a crucial concept the sources introduced to explain this tempo. The OODA Loop, spelled OODA, developed by Colonel John Boyd.
Yes. Colonel Boyd's framework is basically the theoretical bedrock of modern combat operations. The acronym stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act.
Okay, break that down for us.
Every military force, in every engagement, regardless of scale, cycles through these four distinct phases.
Right, so first, you gather data on the environment and the adversary. Then you orient, which is the synthesis phase, where you contextualize that data against your own objectives and training. Then you decide on a tactical response, and finally, you act.
Exactly. And Boyd's critical deduction was that warfare is fundamentally a time-competitive cycle.
It's all about the clock.
The force that can complete this four-step loop faster and continuously reset the loop gains a compounding, often insurmountable advantage over the adversary.
I love the analogy the text provides here.
Yeah.
They use two boxers in a ring to visualize this dynamic.
It's a great visual.
Yeah. Imagine one heavyweight fighter sees a punch coming, processes the angle, reacts instantly, and counters before the opponent can even adjust their stance. The second boxer isn't just absorbing a hit. They're trapped in a reactionary cycle. Because they are constantly dealing with the previous action. They are never able to initiate their own strategy. They are entirely playing catch-up.
Yeah, applying that to a modern theater of war, the objective of these massive command networks is to violently accelerate every single stage of that OODA loop.
Violently accelerate it.
Yes. The global array of sensors vastly expands the observe phase. The algorithms fusing data into the common operating picture compress the orient phase from hours down to seconds.
Wow.
Automated decision support software accelerates the decide phase, and the secure tactical data links instantly push the act command to the weapons platforms. Achieving this faster than the adversary results in decision superiority.
Decision superiority.
Right. The adversary's command structure is mathematically paralyzed. They are rendered obsolete before the first physical engagement even occurs.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because in the late 20th and early 21st century, this obsession with compressing the OODA loop gave birth to network-centric warfare.
Yes, which was a huge shift.
It completely upends traditional military doctrine. Historically, a tank operated as a self-contained unit, relying on its own optics. A ship fought using its own radar. But in network-centric warfare, those platforms are stripped of their independence.
They're just pieces of a larger puzzle.
Exactly. Every single asset becomes a node in a giant interconnected ecosystem.
And the sources detail a specific sequence, the kill chain, to really demonstrate how this functions mechanically. Let's trace the data.
Okay, let's hear it.
Say an infrared satellite in high orbit detects the thermal bloom of a mobile missile launcher rolling out of a bunker. Historically, processing that image, verifying the coordinates, and routing it through the chain of command could take hours.
And by the time the strike is authorized, the launcher is long gone.
Exactly. But under a network-centric model, that thermal detection is instantly relayed to a centralized command architecture. The system automatically cross-references the coordinates and tasks a low observable surveillance drone currently loitering 50 miles away to shift its optical sensors and verify the target.
So the drone does the verification.
Yep. The drone visually confirms the launcher. That targeting geometry is then beamed directly via secure data link to a fighter jet already in the air, or perhaps to a guided missile destroyer off the coast.
And then boom.
The precision weapon is fired. The target is neutralized.
In that entire sequence, from orbital detection to autonomous drone verification to a naval launch to impact, takes a matter of minutes.
Minutes, sometimes less.
The profound takeaway here is that the platform launching the weapon is completely irrelevant to the intelligence gathering. Like the fighter jet or the ship is just a glorified delivery mechanism for the payload.
Absolutely.
The weapon itself is the network. The network allows every single platform to borrow the optical and processing capabilities of every other platform.
And this interconnected organism also fundamentally alters the geographic boundaries of conflict. We are no longer discussing battlefields with, defined front lines.
Right. We've officially entered the era of multi-domain warfare. Warfare is no longer confined to the traditional spheres of land and sea, or even air.
It's everywhere now.
Modern strategic planners have to synchronize operations across 5 distinct domains simultaneously: land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace.
And the complexity of multi-domain operations is staggering because these domains cannot operate in silos. They have to overlap seamlessly.
Right.
A textbook example from the research illustrates a scenario where a cyber warfare unit launches a targeted intrusion to blind an adversary's early warning radar.
Okay.
In the exact same window, an orbital asset is jamming satellite communications, while a naval vessel provides localized air defense coverage for a mechanized ground unit exploiting the breakthrough.
Coordinating that kind of multi-domain ballet is mathematically impossible without the invisible architecture holding it all together.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we uncover the great paradox of modern military strategy. The command network is the absolute prerequisite for operating across all 5 domains.
Because it generates that unprecedented lethality and speed.
Exactly. Yet, because the entire military apparatus is entirely dependent on this invisible architecture, it becomes their single most critical vulnerability.
Right. If the network is the nervous system, then the objective of modern combat isn't to break the fist. It's to induce a network seizure.
Yes.
Militaries are pivoting away from simply targeting physical platforms like tanks and aircraft. The primary strategic goal is to hunt and destroy the network itself through cyber attacks, electronic warfare, communication jamming, and anti-satellite operations.
The tactical doctrine shifts from achieving physical destruction to inflicting sensory deprivation.
Sensory deprivation.
Yeah, the objective is to blind the adversary's sensors, scramble their data links, and isolate their combat units, effectively amputating the limbs from the brain.
It's like fighting a heavyweight champion. You don't walk into the ring and try to physically break the champion's arms. That's just a losing strategy.
Right, you'd get crushed.
Instead, you infiltrate the arena, you turn out all the lights, you pump deafening static over the loudspeakers to disorient them, and you cut the wire to their coach's microphone.
That's a perfect analogy.
You don't actually have to be stronger or faster than the heavyweight champion if the champion can't see your punches, can't hear their corner, and has no idea where they are standing. The goal is sensory isolation.
And the text heavily emphasizes this exact vulnerability. I mean, a nation could possess the most technologically advanced stealth bombers and destroyers on the planet. But if the secure data links are severed, if the lights are out and the radio is dead, the combat effectiveness of those multi-billion-dollar assets drops precipitously.
They become expensive paperweights.
Exactly. Inducing cognitive paralysis in an adversary's command structure is strategically vastly superior to engaging in a prolonged war of physical attrition.
So what does this all mean for a military force that historically relied on sheer manpower and physical platforms? Like, how does a massive traditional force pivot to this invisible architecture?
It's not easy, that's for sure.
To ground this theory in reality, the deep dive sources provide an extensive case study on India's current strategic modernization. It perfectly illustrates the immense infrastructural challenges of building this network from the ground up.
Yeah, India serves as an ideal case study here. Over the past 2 decades, their defense establishment recognized that possessing a massive standing army and a large fleet is insufficient without the digital infrastructure to synchronize them.
Right.
So they have fundamentally reallocated their strategic investments, pouring resources into the invisible architecture required for decision superiority.
Because building a unified network across a subcontinent with incredibly diverse and hostile terrain, from the high altitudes of the Himalayas to the expanses of the Indian Ocean, has to be a logistical nightmare.
Absolute nightmare.
You are dealing with disparate legacy systems, trying to communicate over vast contested distances.
And the sources highlight several specific technological bridges India has built to overcome this. The most prominent is the Integrated Air Command and Control System, or IACCS.
The IACCS.
Right. Before this system, a localized radar station in a mountainous northern sector might track a threat, but that data remains siloed. A naval aviation unit hundreds of miles away wouldn't have access to that picture.
That goes back to the lack of a common operating picture.
Exactly. The IACCS acts as the digital nervous system, networking all ground-based, airborne, and civilian radar, feeds into one centralized hub.
So it performs that crucial translation we discussed earlier, taking fragmented data from Russian-built legacy systems, Western-built platforms, and indigenous sensors, and fusing them into a single common operating picture.
Furthermore, India has launched a series of dedicated military communication satellites, such as the GSAT-7 series.
All right, for the high-bandwidth nerves.
Yes. These orbital relays provide the secure, high-bandwidth connections necessary to link naval task forces in the Indian Ocean directly to command centers in New Delhi.
Amazing.
Simultaneously, the Indian Army is deploying advanced battlefield management systems to digitally connect frontline tactical units, while the Navy implements network-centric protocols tying together shore batteries, submarines, and maritime patrol aircraft.
Examining India's strategic roadmap really drives home the core thesis of the source material. When we analyze modern military modernization, the metric of success has entirely changed.
It really has.
It is no longer a simple accounting exercise of counting tanks, silos, and fighter squadrons. The true measure of a military's lethality is the invisible architecture that allows those physical assets to execute the OODA Loop across land, sea, air, space, and cyber simultaneously.
The physical hardware represents mere potential energy. The network is the mechanism that converts that potential into kinetic reality.
So to distill the core insights from our sources for you today, as we move deeper into the 21st century, the definition of military strength has been fundamentally rewritten. Firepower is completely decoupled from lethality if it lacks targeting and synchronization.
It's all about the network.
Power is now exclusively measured by information superiority. The combatant who can gather the data, synthesize the environment, decide on a course of action, and execute that decision the fastest, dictates the outcome of the conflict.
This raises an important question, one that pushes the logic of the OODA Loop to its absolute breaking point.
Okay, I'm listening.
If the entire architecture of modern warfare is predicated on accelerating the cycle of observe, orient, decide, and act to speeds faster than the adversary, we are rapidly approaching the biological limits of human cognition.
Oh, wow.
Synaptic lag isn't just a hardware problem anymore, it's a human problem.
That's a terrifying thought.
Does the relentless pursuit of absolute decision superiority mean that eventually militaries will be forced to remove human commanders from the loop entirely, handing the keys of this multi-domain nervous system over to artificial intelligence to fight at machine speed?
That is the ultimate paradox. We construct this incredibly elaborate human-centric network to enhance our decision-making, only to realize the final step to achieving perfect speed might require removing the human mind from the equation entirely.
Yeah.
We'll leave you to mull that one over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material behind the hidden architecture of global power. The next time you see footage of a supersonic jet or a sprawling aircraft carrier, look past the metal. The most powerful weapon on that battlefield is the invisible network connecting them. Keep exploring, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us on this Strategic Vanguard podcast. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh podcasts every Monday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Podcast. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.